Hi guys, welcome, and who dat? I'm Joe, and today's video comes with much rejoicing as our beloved New Orleans Saints host in the Caesars Superdome our dreaded foes, the Seattle Seahawks. And our bless you boys come away with the win 39-32. It was a very entertaining game to watch. Could be frustrating at times, but not nearly as frustrating as the beginning of the season has been so far. We put together a pretty complete game on offense. The passing game was efficient. The big standout is we ran the ball 48 times, and that is something that most NFL teams don't do. If you're a team like Baltimore with a running quarterback like Lamar Jackson, something like that, you may see these things happen from time to time. I don't remember the Saints running the ball this much since like the days when Mike Ditka was having Ricky Williams carry the ball 40 times, or maybe in the Jim Haslett days when we had Ricky Williams and Deuce McAllister. Maybe back then we may have ran the ball 40 something times. But that is definitely a recipe for victory. I don't care how sophisticated football gets or how old school us old people might seem to be. I truly believe the key to winning football is having a good offensive line and a good defensive line, controlling the line of scrimmage, being able to run the ball, being able to pass out of a running formation, being able to run out of a passing formation. So we did the deed. We scored in every quarter. That third quarter, where we shut the Seahawks out and managed to put up 2 touchdowns, that was the sweet spot. At that point, we were up 31-17, 31-19. And yeah, that was about as good as it gets. Now we're having our struggles still. We're not playing perfect football yet, by far. But the worst thing about the entire game was just the rash of injuries. We start the game without starting quarterback Jameis Winston, without wide receiver Michael Thomas, without wide receiver Jarvis Landry, once again without safety Marcus May. Cornerback Paulson Adebo coming back from an injury and getting to play, but struggling the entire game. And on offense, despite all of those wide receivers out, and we lost Chris Olave in the second half during the game. Despite all of that, we were able to find a way to win this game. Just enough decent depth at the right positions, perhaps not in the secondary just yet. Let's take a look at the stats. I'm going to try to keep this as merry as possible, but we're not perfect. So here we go. Quarterback Andy Dalton, very efficient, 16-24, 187 yards. He had a touchdown to Chris Olave. He also had an interception. It was a slightly inaccurate pass, and Traquan Smith was the intended receiver. He didn't come back for the ball either way. Those things happen. That was an instance where we turned the ball over, but we didn't allow them to score. We did turn the ball over again on a fumble by Alvin Kamara, his second fumble in as many weeks. That fumble at the end of the second quarter led to points for Seattle, and that's when you just feel like here we go again. We had the lead at the time, 17-13, and we have the ball. We're going into this 4-minute offense. We're looking to get in scoring position right before the half and put some more points on the board. And Kamara fumbles. And then Seattle's able to hit us with a big play. And we gave up some big plays in this game. But no player had bigger plays than Taysom Hill. Under our passing stats here, and I like to call Taysom Hill a tight end because that's what he's listed as under in the depth chart. Hill has one pass, and it's a touchdown, 22 yards to Adam Troutman. So altogether, and Dalton was only sacked once. So altogether, we threw the ball 26 times. And we ran the ball 48 times. Absolutely amazing. And we're going to look at those running stats. Taysom Hill, Taysom King of the Hill, 9 carries, 112 yards, 3 touchdowns. So he lined up at quarterback 10 times, ran it 9 times, threw it once, counts for 4 touchdowns. Hill is usually a spark. A lot of times our offense will be struggling, then Hill comes in, makes a big play, gets us going. And every now and then he can take over a game. Well, he took over this game. And then I've heard it said the quietest 200-yard game in the history of the league. Alvin Kamara, 23 carries, 103 yards. That's an average of 4.5 a carry. 23 carries is a lot, especially for Kamara. Now, this reminds me of what McCaffrey did against us when we played the Panthers. McCaffrey had over 100 yards rushing. He had 25 carries, but I think he only had three catches in that game. Kamara had 6 in this game. So Kamara has 29 total touches for 194 total yards. It was amazing. Now the running game, his biggest carry was 13 yards. When Kamara doesn't score a touchdown, then it's not a big news, but 197 total yards is incredible. Kamara's not built to do that in every game. But we gave other running backs a chance. Mark Ingram had 9 carries. He could only get 16 yards. And Andy Dalton is credited with 7 runs. And, that's the reason why this rushing stat is so crazy, 48 runs. Well, that's because you had 9 from tight end / quarterback Taysom Hill. You had 9 from Ingram and 7 from Dalton. That was 16 carries that accounted for 20 yards total between Ingram and Dalton. 16 carries, 20 yards. And it felt that way when you watched the game. You come away with the running game for the Saints having a total of 235 yards. And you think, man, that was great. It was all Taysom Hill. Hill had a lot of those yards because a lot of those carries amounted to nothing. Which brings me to the offensive line. All 5 starters started. They stayed in the entire game, and it was a mixed bag. Seattle is admittedly not a very good defense by NFL standards. And when our offensive line was on, they were on. And that's why we gained so many yards and had so many big plays in the running game. But if you watch the game, it did feel like we couldn't get things going sometimes. Ingram was stopped every carry he had. Dalton scrambling like that is really a case of a pass play gone wrong, and the line wasn't holding up very good in those plays. So the line was a mixed bag, but when they were on, they were on. And we're going to look at the receivers now. So, like I say, no Thomas, no Landry. Alvin Kamara ends up our leading receiver, 6 carries. or 6 catches, 91 yards. The big one being the 54-yard screen pass, which was called at the perfect time because uh, Seattle was blitzing, and when that screen happened, the entire middle of the field was opened, and Kamara made this incredible move at the 50-yard line, and yeah, that was the best play of the game. Chris Olave had 4 catches for 54 yards and that incredible touchdown where he was slammed to the ground and got a concussion and was out the rest of the game. Adam Troutman, 2 catches, 32 yards, and a touchdown. Juwan Johnson, 1 catch for 13 yards. That was the when Andy Dalton tried to beat Patrick Mahomes for a second there, threw off balance. Juwan was wide open, and it was a good pass. Uh, it was a first down. Traquan Smith had an awful game. He was targeted 4 times. He dropped at least 2 of them. Yeah, he dropped 2 of them and didn't come back for the third one, which was intercepted. But he had the 1 catch for 10 yards, which ends up being a first down on that final 4-minute drive where the Saints ran the clock out instead of giving it to Seattle like we're so used to seeing and having them go down the field. We were able to run that clock out, and Traquan Smith's catch was one of the 2 first downs we needed. The next was a run by Kamara, which was sprung open by a block from Taysom Hill. Taysom Hill, the man of the day. And Alvin Kamara, you know, even when Alvin's not getting a lot of yards, it's because the defense is focused on stopping him, and then that can open up so many things in the passing game. Okay, so now we're going to talk about the defense. And it was a rough game for the defense. They gave up 6 plays of 32 yards or more, including 2 passes to Lockett, which were both touchdowns, and a pass to Metcalf, which was a touchdown, and 2 running plays. One was 32 yards by Rashad Penny, and then the rookie Walker with the big 67, 69-yarder. Jesus. You get blown up by big plays like that, and it makes your stats look awful. You know, you eliminate those 6 big plays, and our defense played great. And the thing about a game like this, which a lot of people will just say it was a shootout, is your defense has to have the right plays at the right time. If you're going to give up 6 plays of 32 yards or more, then you better come up with 6 plays that have an impact as well. We held Seattle to 1 of 9 on third downs. Now, Seattle was scoring fast. They had scoring drives of 5 plays, 3 plays, 3 plays, 1 play. You know, when you're scoring like that, you're not even getting the third down. They did get the third down 9 times, and the defense held them to 1 of 9 on third downs. Well, that's 8 huge plays right there. If you look at those 6 big ones against them, there you go. There's 8 where you got off the field on third down. You know, we also had the 2 sacks, 3 sacks actually. JT Gray was credited with a sack. And Cam had 1.5. He had to share it with Demario Davis, even though we all saw Jordan got there first. But anyway, Paulson Adebo led the team in tackles with 8. That's because he was picked on all day long. He's coming back from that ankle injury, and I think he's working back into form because in training camp and preseason, Paulson Adebo was the man. And if he was going to play like that throughout the regular season, we were going to have an incredibly difficult cornerback tandem to break. But last week, Marshawn Lattimore was the one picked on, and this week it was Paulson Adebo. He only had 1 pass defended. Pete Werner finished with 7 tackles. Tyrann Mathieu had 5 total tackles. Marcus Davenport, 3 tackles solo, 4 tackles total. And he hit the quarterback. Demario Davis, 4 total tackles, including that half a sack. Justin Evans had 4 tackles. Caden Ellis had 4 tackles. And Cam Jordan, who had one of his phenomenal days, 3 tackles, 2 solo, 1.5 sacks. And he did it at the right time. That's part of the reason why Seattle was 1 of 9 on 3rd down. It was the great play of Cam. Granderson had 3 tackles, including a tackle for a loss. Malcolm Roach comes back from IR. He has 2 total tackles. And like I said, JT Gray with the sack, which I don't even remember having happened. But altogether, a really bad game for the defense, despite all of the good. And, we have a good defense. The reason we won this game is because that defense did what it had to do at the right times enough. But, I mean, they gave up quite a bit. Whenever we turned the ball over at the end of the first half and we allowed Seattle to score that touchdown, they go up 19-17 at that point. If that's the end of the game, you lose, and it's the defense's fault. It's Kamara fumbling and then the defense allowing a big play. But when you have JT Gray starting at safety, and Tyler Lockett's getting on top of him both times, I don't know what to say. We don't really have a deep center fielder like Marcus Williams. I remember the last game we played Seattle, we beat them 13-10. Far cry from 39-32. But when you take away the deep play from Seattle, the big play, like I say, the running game, it's just, we did really good. Walker had 88 rushing yards, 69 was on one play. So he basically had 19 yards on 7 carries and one really big one. Same thing with Rashad Penny. 32-yard run was his biggest. Other than that, he only had 22 yards on 7 carries. So it only takes one big play to lose a game or to win a game. The Saints do enough here. Altogether, I was very impressed. Running the ball 48 times, that's no small feat. Another good thing we did was, despite only scoring 3 points in the first quarter, that was the first drive. And when our offense was able to go out there, muster up enough of a drive, give Will Lutz a chance to hit a 58-yard field goal, and he does, that gives your offense confidence. Look, we can get out there and move the ball. If we don't get close enough, we've got a kicker that can make it. All right, we're good. We end up giving up a touchdown. Couldn't get nothing else going in that first quarter. Seattle goes up 10-3, but we're able to match. That second quarter, offensively, was pretty good for us, except for that Kamara fumble. And the defense kind of let us down there. They let us down at the end of the first half, and they let us down a little at the end of the game too. We're able to go up 31-19, and then we have to watch Seattle crawl back into it. 31-25, and then we couldn't get anything going on offense in that fourth quarter just yet. Seattle takes the lead 32-31. Taysom Hill rips off another huge run. We get the 2-point conversion. And then defense does what it has to do. Seattle punts, and we run the clock out. 4-minute offense to end the game is a beautiful thing. The biggest swings between this game and all the other games we've lost this year, despite being so inconsistent again, we allowed fewer penalties. We were guilty of way less penalties. 6 of them for 57 yards isn't good, but it's better than 10 for 100 plus. On the other hand, it was Seattle that had 12 penalties for 85 yards. Another big reason why we were able to win this game. There were a lot of times in the game when the referees were calling penalties against Seattle, and they were justified, but it was at the right time that helped us out just a little bit. The special teams were more good than bad. Our punt coverage was awful. Our punter was punting the ball. It was hitting within the 10-yard line, and nobody was getting down there to cover it. And on two occasions, the returner for Seattle was coming up. He knew the ball was going over his head, but he was coming up pretending to field it. And our coverage team was just surrounding that player instead of somebody getting by the end zone to try to down this thing. It happened twice. And then once, Gillikin decided to coffin corner kick it, and it went out before the 20-yard line. It wasn't a very good kick. So those things were bad, but the field goal was one of one. And Deontay Hardy fumbled on his second return. He got hurt on the play as well. Our team recovered. So it didn't hurt us at the time, but he was out. And Taysom Hill ended up as a kick returner. Marcus Callaway as a punt returner. And it was efficient enough. Taysom fumbled on his first kick return and was able to recover it. But he hadn't done it all year. I don't know if he did it in preseason or not, but, he has done it before for the team. And there he was, returning kicks, playing tight end, playing quarterback. He's doing a seal block to win the game. He's throwing a touchdown. He's running for 3 touchdowns. He's recovering fumbles. What a game by Hill. So just enough good from the special teams, having a great running game, being able to score in the first half. And the play calling was working great. That screenplay against that blitz, you're in a groove when something like that happens for you. Not to mention, knocking off so many big plays in the running game. They knew we were doing it, and we did it anyway. And I love that. Yeah, put in a double jumbo set, no wide receiver out there. They know we're going to run it. That's the thing. We have Taysom Hill, and every offensive lineman did their job on those plays. It shows you how good we can be. They knew we were going to do it, and we did it anyway. It's kind of like, you punched a guy in the nose. You just keep doing it. We have good depth, and our injury-riddled team was able to go out there and win a game. J.P. Holtz, for starters, who assumed the fullback role when a fullback was employed. Because of the injuries, we have to have other people activated. So we have an emergency quarterback. We had a Kirkwood as a wide receiver and Harris as a cornerback. And because of that, we had to put people on the practice squad. We lost Latavius Murray last week, and then this week we lose Tony Jones Jr. to Seattle, of all teams, because we had to make room on the active roster because of all the injuries. But for Callaway and for Hill to be able to step in and return, that's good depth. For Bradley Roby to be able to handle it on the outside, when Lattimore went out toward the end of the game, that big running play came on Harris's side. He was in man coverage. He was following his guy. I mean, there was just nobody there on the outside. You would hope a veteran would recognize the run and get back in position. Not to mention the safeties. JT Gray's out there instead of Daniel Sorensen. JT Gray's a great special teamer. Sorensen's a good special teamer. Some of the depth is good. Some of the depth not so good. We're going to have to address running back at some point this week. And I don't know how we're going to come back at wide receiver just yet. And the secondary depth is a cause for concern. Lattimore went out with an abdomen injury. It happened on a touchdown to Lockett. Lockett hit him in the abdomen when he caught it. And it seemed to me like that was what happened. I don't know if this is going to be some sort of issue that keeps Lattimore out for a while. If so, we're going to have a tough time against Cincinnati this week coming up. especially if Paulson Adebo's not 100%, or if he struggles again like he did this week. You know, Roby's a good player. He plays good, and sometimes he's out of position. So we'll see what happens. Fingers crossed, hands clasped for our Bless You boys. 39-32. We get back on the winning side of things. We're 2-3 now. We're very close in the division. Our division isn't going anywhere. We have to put a couple of wins together. We had a 3-game losing streak. I expect at least a 3-game winning streak, regardless of the competition. We have the defending AFC champion Cincinnati Bengals coming into town this week. And I'm going to be previewing that game. Stay tuned. Subscribe to Rosenville 10 for more videos like this. I'll talk to you guys later. Who dat?